New York Times article, How Hollywood Failed This Summer. The New York Times has published a report titled How Hollywood Failed This Summer, stating, this year was supposed to be the return of the North American box office to its golden age. The CEO of America's largest cinema chain, AMC, said in May, "We are expecting a dramatic boom in the summer box office. This year's films will conquer the box office one after another." Unlike other Hollywood media outlets, the Times incorporated inflation rates into its comprehensive report and continued, "This year, audiences did not cooperate, and we have experienced the worst summer since the summer of 1981, excluding the pandemic period." The American publication then questioned, is it time to admit that a significant number of American audiences will not return? Have movie theaters permanently lost 25% of their customers? Of course, there are counterexamples to the Times' claim. In recent years, we have seen instances where films have drawn audiences who are not regular moviegoers into theaters. However, films like Barbie, Deadpool, and Top Gun are now succeeding at the box office because they frankly know their audience, suggesting that the era of imposing political ideologies, wokeness, on viewers is over. The total box office revenue for all films exceeded $300 million in only 2 weeks this summer. Adjusting for inflation, the total box office revenue in the summer of 2019 surpassed $300 million for 9 weeks. The Times also points out that finding broad audiences has become more difficult, which is why most studios are turning to well-known franchises with established fan bases. This summer, 20 out of the 26 films released were somehow part of a franchise, including remakes, sequels, prequels, or adaptations of video games. The Times continued, but Hollywood has become so dependent on franchises that they have lost their uniqueness. The chart below shows that current installments of famous franchises have performed more poorly compared to their predecessors. Although the Times believes that The Fantastic Four and Superman did not perform too poorly at the box office, it overlooks the fact that these two films are meant to be a fresh start for DC and Marvel. The Fantastic Four is the first major film in the new phase of Marvel, and if compared to previous Marvel installments, it has grossed several $100 million less than works from the previous decade. On the other hand, apart from Aquaman, DC Comics has had little to boast about in the last 13 years. Despite Zack Snyder's Man of Steel performing better at the box office than James Gunn's Superman and finding a dedicated fan base, it was never a serious competitor to the Marvel empire. James Gunn's film ultimately grossed $352 million in North America but performed weakly in international markets. Gunn's excuse was that global audiences are not familiar with the character of Superman.